Good morning, everybody. I've got a new diesel heater, so we're gonna make a new video about it. This is the Hcalory 12-volt diesel heater sold on Amazon. Quick disclaimer, a representative from the brand did reach out to me and sent me this heater in exchange for the video, but I promise to you, you've got my honesty guarantee that everything in this video is going to be honest and real. This video is not sponsored and I'm not being paid to make it. In this video, we'll do an unboxing to see what comes with it. We'll figure out what we need to do to get it running, and then we'll give it a test. The premise of this video will be based on me using this in my rooftop tent. However, the Amazon page for this product advertises that it can be used in a cabin, an RV, inside a vehicle, or in a tent. All right, let's get into the unboxing. So the first thing you see is the diesel heater itself, and then underneath is the box of accessories. We've got the air outlet pipe. This would connect directly to the heater. This is the air intake pipe. The air filter, this screws onto the intake pipe. I'm not sure what this is yet. This is the exhaust pipe, the muffler or exhaust silencer, some hardware to secure the connections, and then it comes with an AC plug, so you can plug this thing right into the wall, as well as some wiring to connect it to a battery, and the instruction manual. And I actually like in the beginning of the instruction manual, it just gives a little bit of education about the diesel heater. And here's a look at the exterior. On this side is the screen, the remote, and where the hot air comes out. On top is where the diesel fuel goes. On the back, this must be a fan and then the plug for power. And on the bottom is the air intake and the exhaust. So there are just a couple things we need to do before we are ready for heat, and that is to install the intake and the exhaust pipe. Based on this picture from the manual, I'm going to assume that the exhaust is in the front and the intake is in the back. I didn't see it in the manual, but I think I figured out what this piece is for, and it's actually fantastic. It goes in here and connects to the exhaust pipe so that the heater can sit upright properly. Without this piece, the exhaust pipe would be sticking straight down and there would be no way for the heater to sit upright. I actually had this issue with my old diesel heater, and I had to awkwardly bend the exhaust pipe and add a couple of wood blocks to the base of the heater just so the exhaust pipe could stick out safely. So I attached the exhaust pipe to this piece with one of those hose clamps, and then this goes in here. I pre-attached one of the hose clamps to the intake pipe, and then this is where I ran into a little issue. I think this little hole here was creatively designed so you could fit your screwdriver in there to tighten the clamps, but my screwdriver wouldn't fit. Fortunately, I figured out a solution. I just undid these two things here on the side, and that allowed me to open this thing up a little bit, and then I was able to get my screwdriver in better, and now I could tighten the clamps. And now that we've got the exhaust and the intake attached, we're just gonna put this hose on here where the hot air comes out. So I believe it is now all set up and ready to go. The only thing I don't have is any diesel fuel, so I'm not gonna turn it on right now. But yeah, I think all I need is just some diesel fuel, a power source, and then a cold night to test it out. So it's been a few days since I did the unboxing and got it set up. I've been kind of waiting for a colder night to test it out. This afternoon, I filled it with diesel, and I just turned it on for the first time and was kind of figuring out at least the basics of how to work it. I have it plugged into this 3000 watt-hour power station from Comvolt, and because of this cord that the heater came with, I can plug it right into the AC outlet. You should be able to run this with a power station a lot less than a 3000 watt-hour capacity. Probably even a 200 watt-hour capacity, but I would go for a little bit larger just to make sure it doesn't die in the middle of the night. I also put on this 16-foot dryer vent, and per the Amazon listing, it is rated for up to 300 degrees Fahrenheit, so it should be safe for this heater. The brand told me that the heat output is up to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. So as soon as I plugged it into the power source, the screen came on. It has manual mode and automatic mode. I'm gonna be using automatic mode. To switch between the two, long press the settings key for 2 seconds. I also use the app, which I'll talk more about later, but I use that to switch from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Once the heater is on, to turn the actual heat on, long press the on button on either the unit or on the remote for 2 seconds. When I do that, I now see the temperature on the screen, and that means that the heater function is on. I know that these diesel heaters go through a boot up mode and a shutdown state, so when you turn on the heat function and it doesn't come on right away, that is normal. And also when you turn off the heat, it's not going to turn off right away. Make sure you don't disconnect the power until it finishes its shutdown state. From what I've heard, that can damage the heater. I'm not gonna test that part. So that's about it for right now. I'm gonna come back in a few hours when it's bedtime and we'll test this thing out tonight. I'm gonna sleep in the driveway tonight. Well, hello there. It is now 9:45 and it's past my bedtime. So I'm gonna fire up this diesel heater and climb into the tent. I've got a meat thermometer to track the temperature. So right now it is around 44 degrees. It's supposed to get into the mid to high 30s tonight, so hopefully it'll get cold. But anyways, yeah, let's fire this thing up. I am in the tent. It is about 47 degrees in here. I made one little change. So I moved the vent so it's blowing the air not in my tent right now. I figured for the first 5 minutes or so that the heater is running. I was just gonna let that air blow out before I have it blow in the tent, just as a safety precaution. But yeah, it's at least cold enough where you can see my breath. So it's been about 15 minutes since I've come up into the tent. I've got the heater currently set to 62 degrees. I'm keeping some of the windows cracked for ventilation, and I've got a carbon monoxide detector in here. If I hold the meat thermometer right in the middle of the tent, it's about 75 degrees, so it's definitely warmed up. I started with the power station at 98%, and I filled the heater diesel tank completely, and it was just over a gallon. So in the morning too, I will let you know what the percentage of the battery life is on the power station, as well as how much fuel do I have. Yeah, I can definitely tell that it's warmed up a bit. It's very comfortable in here. I will not be wearing this hoodie to sleep. I might even turn it down to 60 degrees, I'm not sure. But I am going to lie down and get to bed, and if there are any updates in the middle of the night, I will update then. Otherwise, good night, and I will see you in the morning. Good morning, everybody. It is 6 a.m. in the morning, and I made it. I survived the night, and the heater is still running. I'm tired. It was not my best night's sleep, not entirely at fault of the heater. I've got my meat thermometer, and it is hot in here. It is currently 81 degrees. I'm gonna turn off the heater, and I wanted you here with me for that. I'm going to use the remote. So here, we'll press the off button. I held it for a couple seconds. I just heard 2 beeps. So I'm assuming that means it worked and it turned off. And I don't hear the fan anymore. So that's good. I've got some thoughts about the heater and my night's sleep, but I'm going to collect my thoughts and get back to you later in the day when I'm a little bit more awake. I'm gonna go down and check out the heater, see if we've got any fuel left, and see what the battery percentage is at. I can tell the second I turn off the heater that it's getting colder in here. So it is now later in the day and I never closed down the tent, so I figured I would come back out here to talk about it. So here are my thoughts and notes after using this heater last night. So first of all, when I woke up this morning, it was about 41 degrees. So it really wasn't quite cold enough that I would have needed this heater. But when I went to bed, I set the heat to 60 degrees. I did wake up a couple times to drop it down. So when I woke up, the heater was set to 56. Just like any heater, I suppose, the heat will kind of kick on and off to try to maintain a certain temperature. So you could hear the fan blowing more when the heat was on, and then you could kind of hear it blowing just a little bit when the heat was off. In terms of noise, it was not very loud at all. I didn't even put the muffler on the exhaust. When I used a different diesel heater in the past, it made this clicking noise all night. And I was expecting this one to do that, and it did not do that clicking noise, which was awesome. The only noises that I could hear was just the fan, you know, kind of kicking on and off. I didn't really sleep that great, and I think part of it was just because this was my first time using this diesel heater, so it just kind of made me a little bit nervous being in the tent by myself with the heater running. You never know what could happen. Fortunately, I woke up this morning. These heaters do create very dry air. About an hour and a half in, around 11:30, I started coughing a little bit, and I was starting to get a little worried that this was going to be an all-night thing, but it was not. I think it probably lasted about 5 to 10 minutes. When I did finally officially wake up around 6 this morning, my throat was a little dry. That seemed to subside after about an hour or two. For the most part, there was no smell. However, at 2:30 in the morning, I did notice kind of a strong diesel smell in the tent. And it did subside after a couple minutes, but the only things that I could think of that would have caused that are, one, could the exhaust air kind of blown a little bit towards the intake air, or is it possible that the exhaust air just kind of blew in through some of the ventilation that I had open, you know, some of the windows I had open. It was just that one time, so I don't know. I don't know what happened there. Also, about 10 minutes after lights out last night, I started getting worried about the heat of the exhaust pipe being on the ground all night. So I did get up and I put 2 pieces of wood underneath the legs of the heater, just so that there was some clearance for the exhaust pipe and it wasn't going to be touching anything. My power station was at 98% when I turned on the heater, and roughly 8 hours later, it was still at 87%. So that was pretty cool. Also, it looks like it used about a half a gallon of fuel. I'm sure if it was colder out, it would have used more fuel and more battery power. The app is super simple. Let me show you that real quick. So the app connected to the Bluetooth of the heater immediately, which was awesome, but it just shows the temperature you have it set to, and then you can change it. This high plateau button is for high altitudes. I'm basically at sea level, so I can't attest to this, but apparently with this on, the heater will work at altitudes up to 18,000 feet. Mode change will switch between automatic and manual mode. I can't say I fully understand the difference, but I chose to use automatic just because it shows the temperature, and that just makes more sense to me. I'm not sure what alu body temp is, and I think ambient temp is supposed to be the temperature that the heater is in, so like the outside temperature, but I seem to find that that was not accurate. Then in the settings, you can switch between Celsius and Fahrenheit and feet or meters, and you can switch the language and set a timer. Also, you can turn the heater on and off from the app. So the only other thing I wasn't sure about was this morning, when I turn off the heater, I wasn't sure when it was safe to disconnect the power. So as I mentioned before, it has to go through the shutdown mode before it is safe to disconnect the power. From my past experience with another diesel heater, this took a little while, maybe 10 minutes, maybe even longer, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. For this one, it seemed like it was either really quick or I'm just not sure if it was ready. I turned the heater off from up here, so I didn't get to see what the screen looked like on the heater itself. On the manual, it says after you turn it off, it's going to enter the cooling process and it will display off on the screen. So I never got to see that. And then it says that the heating device shuts down after the cooling process. And based on the picture in the manual, I think it was just really fast that it went through the shutdown state. Like I said, it was much quieter than that other diesel heater that I'd used, and it did not make that awful clicking noise. I absolutely love the app and the remote both worked great. One other thing, I'm not exactly sure what I would do if it's gonna rain, because I'm pretty sure it's not waterproof. Also, I just wish this part of the cord was a little bit longer so this thing doesn't have to stay outside. I can't think of anything else for now, so I think I'm gonna wrap this up. I will leave links for the heater, a few power stations that I've had success with, as well as the dryer vent that I used in the description below. Please leave me a comment if you have any questions and I will do my best to answer. Also, if you did find this video helpful, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to my channel if you aren't already. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. See you next time.